Have you ever wondered why some of the strongest people you know carry an aura of stillness? As if their power doesn't come from noise, but from silence itself. What if the very thing you've been avoiding, solitude, is the exact place where your transformation begins? No applause, no audience, no one telling you good job, and yet you rise. You put in the work. You move forward even when no one notices. Why? Because your soul demands it. This is the quiet fire of rising alone. And then, after the silence and the climb, there comes the win. Not a noisy celebration, not fireworks or trophies, but the kind of triumph that whispers unshakable, undeniable, until even those who left you behind can't ignore it. Stay with me through this journey. Walk alone, rise alone, win alone, and you'll see why solitude is not emptiness but power. Why your rise does not need witnesses, and why your greatest victories are the ones no one sees coming. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Now, dim the lights, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. 1. Walk alone. The sacred return. Walking alone is not just a physical act. It is an inner declaration. When you choose to step away from the noise, from the endless chase for applause, from the expectations of the world, you are not rebelling against others, you are returning to yourself. The silence you encounter at first will not feel kind. It will feel heavy, like a storm pressing in on your chest. That's because solitude strips away the distractions you've used to avoid your own reflection. It shows you the doubts you've buried, the insecurities you've masked, and the wounds you've carried quietly for years. But make no mistake, this confrontation is not punishment, it is purification. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." These words are more than poetry. They are instruction. They are a compass pointing you inward, to the only retreat that never abandons you. To walk alone is to discover that you are not your reputation. You are not the roles others assign you. You are not the weight of your past failures or even the echo of your greatest applause. You are something quieter, something infinitely stronger. And yes, at first, the silence will hurt. Loneliness will disguise itself as pain. But pause long enough, and you'll realize solitude is not loneliness. Solitude is your workshop, your sacred forge, the place where strength is shaped not with noise, but with stillness. Here, you begin to hear the voice you've drowned out with distractions your own, the one that tells you the truth of who you are and who you are not. When you learn to walk alone, you stop fearing silence. You stop craving the eyes of the crowd. Instead, you stand raw, unfiltered, and unshakable, because you finally remember who you were before the world told you otherwise. Walking alone is not being lost. Walking alone is being found, fully, deeply, inwardly. It is the foundation of everything that follows. Because before you can rise, before you can win, you must first walk into the silence and claim it as your own. 2. Rise alone, the hidden discipline. There is a moment no one sees, a quiet hour before the sun rises, a notebook waiting to be filled, a pair of shoes by the door, the stillness before you decide today, I rise. You do not rise because the world expects it. You do not rise because applause is waiting. You rise because something deep within you demands it. The Stoics never lived for the crowd. They didn't train to be admired. They trained to endure, to sharpen themselves, to become unshakable when the storms arrived. And this is where you understand the essence of Stoicism. Your strength is not formed in the spotlight, it is forged in the dark, in the absence of eyes. Epictetus said it plainly. If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid with regard to external things. That is the cost of rising alone. Misunderstanding, judgment, even ridicule. People will laugh at your discipline. They will dismiss your devotion. They will call your path unnecessary, even extreme. But that's because they never dared to climb as high as you intend to. And here lies the paradox. The more you rise alone, the less you need, less praise, less validation, less reassurance. And in exchange, you gain something rarer, something no one can take away from you: clarity, focus, quiet power. The alarm clock rings. You get up not because someone will congratulate you, but because you promised yourself you would. You write, even if no one reads. You train, even if no one notices. You breathe through discomfort, even if no one acknowledges it. These are not acts of performance. They are acts of transformation. Every silent repetition, every page read, every dawn faced without applause, that is where greatness is born. And eventually, the same people who overlooked you will wonder how you did it. They will ask, when did you change? When did you become so unshakable? And you will smile, because the answer is simple. You rose while no one was watching. So rise when it's dark. Rise when you're tired. Rise especially when no one claps, because that is when it matters most. 3. Win alone. The quiet triumph. You've walked alone. You've risen through silence, through rejection, through the heavy weight of being unseen. Now comes the moment most people never prepare for: victory. But victory, to the Stoic, is not what the world says it is. True triumph is not the medal, not the headline, not even the whispered acknowledgement of those who once doubted you. True triumph is mastery not of the crowd, but of yourself. The real enemy was never outside of you. It was the inner voice whispering, "You're not enough unless someone sees you win." What's the point if no one is watching? That is the voice you conquer. And when you do, there are no fireworks. There is no roar of applause. There is only stillness, and the quiet knowledge that you no longer need their validation. Victory isn't loud. It doesn't trend. It doesn't demand an audience. Victory is waking up early when you could have slept in. Victory is choosing truth when lies would have been easier. Victory is saying no to comfort and yes to growth. These are not small choices. They are the foundations of an unshakable life. Winning alone means walking past your old self, the one who craved recognition, and quietly realizing you have become the person they only dreamed of being. And yes, one day, those who left you behind will look back. They will regret doubting you. They will regret leaving you. Not because you shouted for their attention, not because you proved them wrong with noise, but because your very existence became the proof. That is Stoic power. Silent, unapologetic, unshakable. But the story does not end at victory. Because after you've walked, after you've risen, after you've won, the question remains: what now? What happens when the crowd is gone and the applause never comes? What happens when the victory is yours, but yours alone. That is where the true Stoic journey begins. 4. The Stoics' solitude. Refinement in silence. Solitude is not exile. It is refinement. It is not running away from life, but returning to it stronger, calmer, sharper. For the Stoic, solitude is not a void to escape into. It is a retreat where the soul breathes. A place where the fog of distraction clears and clarity emerges like the sunrise. When you are alone, your values sharpen like a blade. You stop confusing noise with truth. You stop letting your emotions drive the chariot. Instead, you hold the reins, you examine, you understand, and you command them. Solitude is not about cutting yourself off from the world forever. It is about stepping back long enough to return better, to return unshaken, unbroken, and unbothered by the things that once pulled you apart. Marcus Aurelius wrote alone in his journal, reminding himself, nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul. Solitude is that retreat, not for hiding but for preparing. And yes, it will test you. Solitude will expose what distractions once concealed. It will ask you who you are when no one is watching. But those questions are not curses. They are invitations. Invitations to grow, to strengthen, to evolve. If you are alone right now, you are not being punished. You are being rebuilt. Let them underestimate you. Let them think silence is surrender. Because when you rise from solitude, you will rise with stillness so unshakable that no amount of noise can touch it. You never needed them. You only needed to return to yourself. 5. Self-sufficiency. The power of needing. Lest to walk alone is not to be abandoned. To stand alone is not to be unloved. To become self-sufficient is not to turn cold. It is to return to clarity. The Stoics remind us true self-sufficiency is not about cutting yourself off from people. It is about cutting your chains to their approval. When you learn to be self-sufficient, you don't stop enjoying friendship, love, or connection. You simply stop needing them to feel whole. You stop letting your peace depend on the presence or absence of others. Seneca wrote, "He is a wise man who is content with what he has, whatever it may be." This wisdom is not an excuse for passivity. It is the recognition that your worth is not borrowed from the outside. It is rooted within. The man who is self-sufficient may wake at 5 in the morning, not because someone is watching, not because applause awaits, but because he promised himself he would. He trains without mirrors, reads without audience, writes without needing to be read. He does these things not for recognition, but for refinement. Most people never hear his name, but one day they will see the results of his unseen labor. Because while the crowd looked outward, he was building inward. That is the essence of self-sufficiency. You stop asking for permission. You stop waiting for validation. You stop needing the green light from anyone else to live with honor. This is not coldness, it is power. Because when your value is rooted within, rejection cannot shatter you. Praise cannot distract you. You become steady, anchored, unshakable. So I ask you, what part of you is still waiting for someone else's approval? Who are you when no one is watching? If you can answer those questions with honesty, you are already on the path of self-sufficiency. 6. The lonely discipline. Training in the dark. Discipline does not shout. Discipline does not post for likes. Discipline does not beg for recognition, but in the still hours of the morning, when the world is asleep, it walks with you like a silent ally. To walk alone is not a punishment, it is purification. And in that solitude, discipline becomes your greatest companion. This is not the discipline imposed by fear or by someone else's rules. It is the discipline you choose, because you've decided that self-mastery is freedom. You rise early not because you are forced, but because you made a vow to yourself. You do the hard thing, not for credit, but because your soul whispers, "This is right." Every repetition in silence, every page read with no one watching, every morning that begins in darkness, these are not wasted. They are rituals of transformation. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Just that you do the right thing. The rest doesn't matter." That is the heart of discipline. Virtue is not performance. It is devotion. It is not about who sees you. It is about who you become when no one sees. The world trains for applause. The Stoic trains for character. And yes, it is lonely. Deeply. When no one texts, when no one cheers, when no one even notices your progress, that is when you are tested. That is when you either break or you build. Those who build in silence become unbreakable. Each habit repeated without audience becomes a stone. And over time, those stones form something indestructible, your inner citadel. Confidence is born here, not in proving to others, but in proving to yourself. The world celebrates noise, but you, if you choose this path, will honor silence. You will train in the dark so that when the light finally comes, you are already prepared. Let them leave. Let them doubt. Let them regret. None of it matters. Because you walk, you rise. You win not for them, but for the self you are building brick by brick. Discipline is not control. Discipline is becoming, and becoming demands solitude. 7. Detach to master. Freedom beyond outcomes. To walk alone is not to abandon the world. It is to detach from its grip. Detachment is not indifference. Detachment is clarity. It is the power to act without being enslaved by the outcome. The Stoic does not stop caring. He stops clinging. He does not stop acting. He simply acts without demanding a result. Epictetus said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." And so, detachment is not a weakness. It is the highest form of freedom. Consider the athlete who trains before dawn. No cameras, no coaches, no cheering crowds. Day after day, she repeats the same drills. She fails, adjusts, tries again. She sweats not for medals or headlines, but because each drop is a step toward mastery. Her reward is not applause. Her reward is transformation. That is detachment, acting for alignment, not applause. Rising for principle, not permission. The world teaches you to chase trophies, followers, money, recognition. But the Stoic knows the only victory that matters is the one within. When you no longer crave praise, you cannot be manipulated. When you no longer fear failure, you cannot be stopped. This is mastery, not of the world, but of yourself. Detach, and you will discover a strength that no outcome can touch. You will rise whether or not the world notices. You will endure whether or not success arrives. You will stand firm whether or not they clap. Because the man who walks without fear of loss is the man who cannot be defeated. 8. The silent victory. When no one notices, not all victories are loud. Not every triumph belongs on a stage. Some of the greatest victories happen quietly within. They are carried not as headlines, but as invisible crowns. To walk alone, rise alone, and win alone is not pride, it is power. It is the strength to persist without noise, to grow without validation, to master yourself without permission. The Stoic does not perform for attention. His victories are sacred because they do not need to be seen. Forgiving when you could have retaliated. Waiting when you could have rushed. Enduring when you could have escaped. These are not weaknesses. They are silent victories. In a culture obsessed with performance, silence becomes rebellion. Every time you refuse to argue, refuse to chase, refuse to beg, you are choosing something higher. You are choosing peace. You are choosing mastery. And that is why the Stoic does not fear being unseen. He understands the unseen victories are the ones that shape who you are. The day you didn't quit, the morning you got up anyway, the conversation where you stayed kind instead of cruel. These don't trend, but they transform. This is the silent victory. And yes, it is precisely this kind of quiet strength that makes those who left you regret it later. Not because you shouted for attention, not because you sought revenge, but because your transformation was undeniable. When you stop needing the crowd can never control you again. Nitaman build the inner citadel, strength. No one can touch. They may have left you. They may have doubted you. They may have betrayed you. And yet, in the silence that followed, something extraordinary began to take shape within you. You are not broken. You are being rebuilt. Marcus Aurelius called it the inner citadel, a fortress of the soul, not made of stone or steel, but of discipline, principle, and daily reflection. A stronghold that no storm can reach, no betrayal can penetrate, and no loss can destroy. When the applause fades, when the world collapses, when those you trusted disappear, you retreat, but not to escape. You retreat to sharpen. You retreat to grow. You retreat to build a citadel within that cannot be moved. Inside this fortress, you face yourself honestly. You strip away excuses. You confront your weaknesses without shame. You bleed. You sweat. You stumble, but all of it within walls that are yours alone. Every time you resist distraction, you lay another brick. Every time you choose growth over comfort, another stone is set in place. Every time you refuse to chase validation, the walls rise higher, stronger, unshakable. And here is the paradox: the world will see the result, but never the building. They will see the fortress standing tall, but not the long nights you spent alone. The pages you wrote that no one read. The repetitions you did when no one clapped. This is how citadels are built in silence, hidden, patient, sacred. And yes, one day those who left you will regret it. But not because you shout for their attention, not because you demand recognition. They will regret it because your silence has become louder than any words. For while they searched outward for strength, you built it inward. While they fled from difficulty, you walked straight into fire and emerged as iron. Now you carry something rare and unshakable calm. You walk alone, but you are never empty, because the fortress is within you, and it walks with you always. The citadel was never meant to impress others. It was built to protect you, and once it stands, you realize when the world forgets your name, your values remain. When you are left with nothing, you still possess everything that matters. That is the promise of Stoicism. That is the reward of walking alone. 10. Walk alone, but never against yourself. The compassionate Stoic. Walking alone is a sacred act of courage. But let us be clear, it does not mean you must become your own enemy. The Stoic path is not about tearing yourself apart in the name of discipline. It is about elevating yourself without cruelty, guiding yourself without shame, and holding yourself accountable without destruction. Too often, we confuse discipline with punishment. We think being hard on ourselves will make us stronger, but Stoicism teaches otherwise. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Notice he never said you are the impediment. He never declared war on himself. He turned obstacles into teachers, not into excuses for self-condemnation. To walk alone is to walk with yourself, not against yourself. When you stumble, you do not ask, "What is wrong with me?" You ask, "What have I learned?" Growth is never born from self-hatred. It blooms in the soil of self-understanding. To walk alone but never against yourself is to become both teacher and student of your own life. To hold yourself to high standards, but not to cut yourself down when you fall short. To remind yourself, "I am not perfect yet, but I am still worth the fight." This is not weakness. This is sovereignty. Because the true Stoic does not deny their humanity. They embrace it, they discipline it, and then they elevate it. Walking alone may cost you the noise of the crowd, but it gives you the clarity of your own voice. And that voice must be steady, must be guided by reason, not drowned in shame. You will falter, you will fail. But when you do, speak to yourself with wisdom, not blame. Hold hands with the younger self who doubted. Speak gently to the tired self who wanted to quit. Encourage the stronger self you are still becoming. You are not alone when you have yourself, and you are not stoic if you forget to be human. That is the paradox of the path you walk alone. Yes, but you carry yourself along the way. And in doing so, you discover that solitude is not isolation, it is union with the only person who will never leave you. 11. Beyond the noise. Living by principles. To walk alone, rise alone, and win alone is not a rejection of the world. It is a refusal to be ruled by its noise. The Stoic knows the crowd will always demand. They will pull you toward their applause, their validation, their judgment. But when your compass is fixed on principle, you no longer sway. Virtue, reason, discipline, these become your anchors. They steady you in storms. They quiet you in chaos. They keep you walking when others quit. It is tempting to measure your life by how many people applaud. But applause fades. Principles endure. When you act with integrity, you no longer fear being misunderstood. When you stand with discipline, you no longer beg for recognition. When you live by virtue, you no longer worry about who leaves, because you carry what matters within you. The Stoic path is not glamorous, it will not trend, but it will last. 12. The final return. Walking together, alone. In the end, walking alone is not about exile. It is about alignment. It is not about hating others. It is about loving truth more. Yes, you will lose people. Yes, you will face silence. Yes, you will spend nights wondering if it is worth it. But remember, solitude is not a void. Solitude is a sanctuary. It is where Marcus Aurelius returned each night to write to himself. It is where Seneca sharpened his thoughts. It is where Epictetus, once a slave, found freedom. And it is where you will discover that the person you most needed to meet has been waiting all along yourself. You are not your failures. You are not your applause. You are not the ones who left. You are the fortress that survived. You are the fire that endured. You are the silence that became unshakable. So walk alone, rise alone, win alone. But do not forget you are never truly alone. Because the moment you carry yourself with clarity, you walk with every Stoic who ever chose the same path. The quiet victory. If you take nothing else from this journey, remember this: your power does not come from their validation. It comes from your discipline, your peace, your principles. Let them doubt you, let them dismiss you, let them regret leaving you. Because the Stoic does not chase revenge. The Stoic whispers with action. And in time, that whisper will echo louder than any noise. Now, slow your breathing. Let the words settle. Feel the quiet strength inside you. You have walked through solitude. You have risen without applause. You have seen how victory can be silent, sacred, and yours alone. This is not just philosophy. This is practice, a way of living. So tonight, when you lay your head down, remember you do not need the crowd. You do not need the noise. You only need to keep your vow to yourself. Walk alone. Rise alone. Win alone. And when the world looks back, they will see not bitterness, not revenge, but someone unshakable, someone free, someone sovereign. And that is the ultimate victory. You've walked with me through silence. You've risen without applause. You've seen how victory, when it's yours alone, doesn't need to shout to the world. Now it's your turn. Carry this strength into your life. Let solitude refine you. Let discipline guide you. Let your quiet victories speak for themselves. And remember those who left, those who doubted, those who couldn't see your worth. Their absence is not your burden. Your only task is to keep walking, rising, and winning, anchored in who you are becoming. If this message resonated with you, share your thoughts below. Tell me, what was the moment you realized solitude was shaping you instead of breaking you? Your story might be the spark someone else needs tonight. And before you go, subscribe, not out of habit, but if you truly found value here. Because this journey doesn't end with one video. It continues. And I want you with me as we keep walking the Stoic path, together alone. Now, take a deep breath. Let the silence steady you, and step forward into your own unshakable power. Good night. Sweet dreams.